Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Health Talk. I am your host, Dr. Niru Prasad, with my background in pediatrics, emergency medicine, and urgent care, affiliated with Henry Ford Health System, St. Joe, Oakland, and Beaumont. The theme of our health talk today is behavioral disorders among our juveniles and the adult. Joining us today as my guest speaker is Dr. Julie Brzezinski, and she is the director of Monarch Behavioral Center. Look here. And she's going to highlight our viewers about what are the conditions that are prevalent among our children, adolescents, and how to handle them. Good morning, Julie, and welcome to my health talk.
Oh, good morning. Thank you for having me, and thank you for talking about this.
Yeah, and then, before we get started, can you give give me your introduction to our viewers?
Sure, of course, yeah. So I'm Dr. Julie Brzezinski. I'm the clinical director of Monarch Behavioral Health.
Yeah.
And so what do we do there? So we do individual treatment, group
Okay.
as well as family.
Okay.
We provide testing for things like ADHD and
Yeah.
autism and learning difficulties. And we also provide community engagement services. So we go into schools as well as businesses
Yeah.
to help hopefully provide as much free information around mental wellness as humanly possible. In an ideal world, I work myself out of a job because we give so much information
So
away.
much.
Yeah.
You play such a significant role during the child's growth and development, attention deficit disorders and all those. That is so prevalent. Yeah, anxiety attacks. So, so what are the questions? What are the common behavioral disorders you see in your office?
Yeah, and because we work with individuals across the lifespan, we work with little kiddos
Right,
as well as even prenatal
temper
mamas.
tantrum.
Yeah, lots of temper tantrums in our office, but all the way up till adulthood. So we see,
Right.
kids and adolescents.
Adolescent, yeah.
Yeah, and adolescents with difficulties like ADHD, anxiety, depression,
Anxiety,
and
yes,
certainly
yes.
something that is called conduct disorder, but usually there's actually a lot underneath it that is occurring. And those are some of the most common behavioral difficulties for kiddos.
Yeah.
And then for adults, as we move into adulthood, we certainly also see ADHD, mood disorders, anxiety.
Behavior disorders,
Yeah.
anxiety.
And then also like substance use and struggling with using substances and knowing how that's affecting us. And
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, although not behavioral emotional difficulties, huge life stressors and relationship difficulties, which also pour into the emotional and
To do
behavioral
this,
difficulties.
So how many staffs do you have?
We have about 9 clinicians with various
clinicians,
with
okay.
various types of treatment and areas of specialty. So we hope that we can, within a community, serve everybody's needs.
Okay, that's good. At this area, they need you. They need you so badly. Yeah. So then, if somebody wants to approach you, how do I go?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Best way to approach?
yeah, I think the best way to approach
Call your
mental health treatment.
mental health
Yeah,
treatment.
you can call just the front office and make an appointment. Sometimes people like to go through their primary care physician or pediatrician first to kind of get a screening.
Get a referral.
And oftentimes that's who's referring to us. And for kiddos, it's often teachers and school staff
Oh, yeah,
who
right.
are
They're a
noticing
big source.
things. Yeah, and noticing, wow, your kiddo really wants to be doing well in school, but they've got these barriers. And then they provide our information.
Yeah.
And so people kind of come from these various routes.
differently,
But a
yeah.
lot of people are just calling or going on our website and contacting us.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Because when I was looking for you, I went through your website and I went through, and because I live very close to you. We are almost neighbors. I said, oh my God, she will be the best one to come to my show. Yeah, and I'm glad you are able to give some time because this is, I have been doing this community services. Yeah, just try to help as much as I can.
Absolutely. And that's what we're all about too, is trying to get information on mental wellness out there.
Mental wellness.
Yeah. And all of the protective factors, as well as when is it time to seek treatment and to seek support, and what resources can people take advantage of. And so we do things like this, and we have a lot on our website, blogs and resources and links.
Resources, yeah. I went through your website. So like for the young kids, if they are failing grades and all that due to attention deficit disorder, which is so common, do you still put them on Ritalin or?
And so we work with pediatricians and psychiatrists in the community, and
pediatric psychiatrists.
Yeah, and we have close relationships with several because for some kiddos, absolutely medication is the first line of treatment, and it helps them take advantage of all of the behavioral and emotional treatment. But some kiddos really respond to cognitive behavioral therapy even without medication.
Yeah, that was my next question to ask you about the cognitive behavior therapy. I read a lot about this. I wrote a couple of articles about attention deficit. So tell us about this cognitive behavior therapy at your office.
CBT is one of the most effective treatments, and actually for a wide range of difficulties. So when we're talking about emotional and behavioral difficulties, CBT is very effective for anxiety difficulties, very effective for mood challenges, and very effective for things like ADHD and other behavioral emotional difficulties with kiddos. If you can imagine a triangle, and up at the top is emotional patterns.
Right.
And then we have thinking patterns and behavioral patterns.
The three things, emotions.
Yeah. And the emotional,
behavior,
the thinking patterns, and the behavioral patterns. And they all affect each other. And so what we work on in CBT is identifying the emotional patterns and learning coping strategies. The thinking patterns and learning what mistakes and errors does our brain make when we're interpreting information. And then behavioral patterns. What can we do differently that helps our brains process and reduce the intensity of that emotion. And with something like ADHD, we're learning a lot of what's called executive functioning skills.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the more and more I read it, the more I'm learning.
Yeah, it's very effective and oftentimes really fun, especially with kiddos and adolescents. We're often doing hands-on projects to learn the skill.
To learn the skill, Now, tell us about these autistic kids.
Yeah, we do. We see a lot of kiddos on the spectrum, and a lot of
spectrum. I have written a couple of articles. They have been come out in the newsletter journals also about the autistic disorders. What is autism? What is not autism?
Exactly. Yeah, and the diagnoses have shifted over the years.
Autistic disorder.
Yeah, and now we have a kind of a level system that represents how much support the individual needs in their home and community. And for instance, an individual that's at level 1 that doesn't need a lot of support, that may look very similar to ADHD. So one of the things when people are coming into our office that we find so incredibly important is a correct diagnosis.
Correct diagnosis.
Because it puts you on the path to the correct treatment, be that medication or different types of therapy. So diagnosis, especially for something that is really complex or overlaps with other disorders like ADHD and dyslexia, it's important that kiddos receive full testing. And so that is neuropsych or psychoeducational testing.
Psychological testing. So that is such a complex dilemma, isn't it? Autistic disorder.
Yeah, it can be complex to diagnose, absolutely. But luckily we have great assessment
So
tools.
you have so much of tools now available.
Yes,
Yeah. Right,
and that
yeah.
is why diagnoses have increased over time because our assessment tools are so much more
So
accurate.
much, right?
Yeah.
Assessment tools.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's this is a very important thing. Autistic disorder, learning disorders, because once they reach the middle school,
Yeah.
they are behind if they are not treated.
Yes. Well, and in third grade, so we see a lot of kiddos with dyslexia. Somewhere between 20 and 40% of kids with ADHD have dyslexia.
Right? Dyslexia. Okay.
About 20% of kids with dyslexia have ADHD. And so they co-occur very often, but dyslexia is very underidentified.
Is that so?
Oh, yeah. And it can really lead to intense anxiety because kiddos are trying so hard. Adolescents are trying so hard.
But they are unable to.
Yes.
Is it because they are unable to concentrate?
If they do have ADHD,
Yeah.
then yes, it can be because it puts another liability in. But for dyslexia, brains are learning differently. And kind of the traditional means of teaching often kind of don't make it from their working memory back into long-term memory.
Long-term
Yeah.
memory,
So when we provide a full testing and give the correct full diagnosis, we can also go into the school and engage in educational advocacy.
Okay.
Teachers want so badly to teach their students the most
Something,
effective way possible.
right,
So we try and give the teachers the cheat codes. We try and tell them, like, this is how this kid is going to learn. And then we help construct educational plans kind of in partnerships
Right,
with schools.
with the school
Yeah,
system.
so they don't get through school all the way through high school not knowing how they learn and how they want to approach experiences in the world.
Right. What do you think about the prognosis? Do they get better or?
Absolutely. So, anxiety, it depends on which type of disorder you're talking about, but certainly any mental health difficulty that receives treatment, it generally gets better.
They
And
do
and
get-
even very early
they
on in
get
treatments,
better. Yeah.
people generally rate a huge sense of relief when they start treatment. And then we do know that kiddos that receive support in childhood and adolescence
Yeah.
have far better outcomes in
Right,
adulthood, whether that is anxiety, depression, ADHD, autism, learning difficulties. When we apply treatment in childhood, the sky's the limit.
So that's a good thing to know, for our viewers to know that once you go to the clinic, Monarch behavioral therapist, they will have a good evaluation where the kids belong, whether it is a mild, moderate, or severe case of autism.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or learning difficulties
Learning
or
difficulties.
ADHD.
Yeah, and they are directed to that particular area, right?
Yes. And so the process when somebody comes in, they do fill out some paperwork ahead of time and we look over that. We conduct an initial intake evaluation,
Yeah, okay.
which we are gathering all of the data to kind of form our hypotheses.
Okay.
Form our, I think this is going on with this kiddo, or I think this is going on with this young woman, or I think this is what is going on with this 80-year-old man. We
Right,
form,
yeah.
our hypotheses,
Right,
and then we continue to gather data. If we do an assessment, the individual comes back into the office, and we do between 4 to 7 hours of testing.
Is that
It
so?
is very in-depth. We take lots of breaks, and we have lots of, depending on the kiddo, dance parties or
You want to make that the kid is relaxed.
exactly.
Yeah. And when you get a juvenile or the early adulthood, there's a different story.
very,
right?
yes.
Because
yeah.
they fall into a different category. Like they will
Absolutely.
come to you, anxiety attack,
Yeah.
depressions, some disruptive behaviors.
Yes.
So you have another pathway for them,
For
right?
adults, yes, absolutely. And with adults, it is really important to understand what is their stress level, what are their relationship patterns,
Stress wave, yeah.
and also personality patterns as we move through childhood and adolescence and into adulthood. Understanding personality
Yeah,
patterns is also really important in
I
assessment.
wrote a paper about the post-COVID era. This COVID has thing has done so much damage all over, right?
Yes.
All these mental depressions and everything is because of the COVID. People are isolated at home.
Yeah.
Kids
Yeah.
are not going to the school, so they go to the social platform, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. I just did a talk at a school last night about social media and screen use and mental health.
Yeah.
And yes, it has kind of screen time and social media use, which also includes like YouTube and Fortnite servers, things we often don't think of as social media. It has skyrocketed since COVID. And what we also see is that as
toxic behavior.
screen time increases, so does anxiety and depression. And we
Yeah.
understand a lot of why. And so
yeah.
one of our talks we give is
When
providing.
they go to the social media, they try to talk to the same people, similar conditions, and they discuss and then get to used to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes, actually very often, kiddos get information that is not healthy because they're trying to reach out and maybe even solve a problem or get information. But unfortunately, the way that algorithms, work, they're always trying to make money on whoever is using that application.
Right, exactly.
And so it's not benevolent. It's not made to be helpful. And so kiddos are getting information that isn't helpful oftentimes. So we also help parents and also adults because
of course,
all of us get stuck on screens, manage screen time to make sure it is not contributing to our difficulties.
The Academy of Pediatrics, I'm a active member there, and they have done so much about this, banning the social media restrictions and the use of cell phone, tic-tacs and all those. But in spite of everything, still
It is, and it's here to stay in different forms. And so we take the view of we want to help when we're parenting. Oh man, there's such a huge divide of most parents, what they experienced as kids, and then what we are trying to do and how we are trying to parent around technology.
Right,
Oh my gosh, none of this existed. And so trying to think, how do we still imbue our values in our kids and protect them, help them be resilient individuals who bounce back from adversity? And how do we do that while they're on screens and viewing social media?
Right,
so we help parents as well as adults develop kind of safety guards and also structure around their screen use. What is good for me? How much is good for me? Which apps seem to be okay? And then also monitoring, how to monitor in a productive way that is helping kids learn how to use social media.
Right, yeah. But you go to the restaurant and all that, even a little toddler, this on the baby seat, and they are watching the Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, yes, yeah. And even kids and teens realize that that's not healthy. You'll see even a lot of memes about iPad kids. Kids are concerned when they walk in and a little one looks like a zombie on a screen. Even kids will notice
even
and
the
say
kids
something
notice
about
that.
it. Yeah.
I know. Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
I remember,
And it causes something that we call tech trap, because when kiddos are using screens to cope, and they're learning, whenever I feel discomfort, I pop on a screen, they're not using proactive coping strastrategies. And so we get in these cycles where we're feeling uncomfortable, we start to escalate, we use a screen. It doesn't actually make our brain or body feel better. And then we have to get off the screen, often tantrums. Even my own household, my kiddos sometimes have tantrums when it's screen time is done. So we tantrum, then we loop around to feeling discomfort, and there's an escalation, but without coping skills. And so some parents get trapped in this because parenting is joyful but also exhausting. And so we get caught in this tech trap. And sometimes it can make difficulties like anxiety or mood difficulties much worse. And certainly neurodivergent kiddos are at higher risk for having difficulties with screens.
Yeah, right. Yes, those are all the legislations and the regulations. They are going to the Washington for those, fight for those things. But despite of everything,
Yeah.
it's happening, isn't it, Julie?
Yeah, it is happening. And I think a lot of parents also feel uncomfortable thinking about their kids moving around this world without a way to contact them.
Right,
So many parents don't want, for instance, there to be a ban on phones in schools. It's a hard sell.
It's a hard job.
Yeah. But we hope that we can give parents enough information that they realize it's not all or nothing. It's not no tech or open the gates, it's all the tech. There's actually a gradual exposure that can happen with like bumper bullying, with some bumpers in place so that when a kid comes across something inappropriate or dangerous, the bumpers bump them back to the middle, and also you have the opportunity as a parent to be able to discuss this with them.
This, yeah. Remember about 2-3 years ago, this Milford shooting happened? Wasn't it tragic? And I wrote a paper about that, and because one of the daughter who got killed, you know, and I knew the mother, and I could see how much emotional upset, you know, emotions lingers, you know.
Absolutely.
Can you believe kids is ready to graduate and here they are?
Yeah. And several of them recently experienced another campus shooting while in college.
I know, Colorado and whatever, all those shootings. So I don't know what is I don't know how to stop that.
Yeah.
And another thing, you know, I am noticing about this use of marijuana and all those. Do you see those?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. As things shifted towards marijuana's legalization, you know, certainly we're always helping individuals with substance use disorder and addiction.
Substance abuse disorder.
Yeah. And it's so important to understand that addiction is very genetic. Certainly, so that, you know, individuals, we see there's a lot of genes in families that get passed down.
Genetics.
And then traumatic instances, like, unfortunately, horrible trauma, like a school shooting, like an assault, can really pressurize.
Or see family dispute or family domestic violence.
Yeah, and those are often called ACEs, so adverse childhood experiences or events. And kind of the more ACEs somebody has and the higher genetic loading, they're much more likely to have addiction issues or substance use issues.
Right. Yeah.
Then now we kind of enter this area where marijuana is legal. And it feels, many people have this conceptualization, oh, well, it's natural. I often say, well, like, so is rattlesnake venom. It's very natural. It occurs naturally, but it's going to harm you. And so what we have to help people understand is, sure, marijuana is legal, but if you have the genetic liability for addiction or mental health difficulties, marijuana is very serious. It is a drug.
It is.
Individuals who have
They
any
grow
type of
it in their backyard.
and it's so easy to stop by a dispensary. That it's really important that individuals understand its use in adolescence and adulthood when you have any genetic liability for like a psychotic disorder, so propensity for kind of delusions or difficulties separating from reality, marijuana use really pushes that risk.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and it does so individuals with ADHD are also more likely to smoke marijuana. But then it really increases ADHD symptoms. People feel like, oh, but I feel better.
I feel better.
When I smoke. But
Sense
actually,
of well-being.
it's because you're high, and for that brief period of time, you might get some relief. But the way that our brains work, the refractory period on the other side of that, it's gnarly, and your brain chemistry is not doing so hot, and it will make the symptoms of whatever you got going on, depression, anxiety, ADHD, we usually turn those symptoms up. Yeah.
Could you comment on those e-cigarettes?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because I see, in Bloomfield Hills, a local school, kids are outside and they all have those and e-cigarettes.
And I think they are very addictive, and it's hitting the bloodstream very quickly. We do not know the long-term health costs,
right,
which
yeah.
is what concerns me the most. I do
It's
think,
smoking.
yeah, and also, it's so discreet. It's very easy to get away with. Often they look like little USB keys,
The little,
or pens.
yeah.
And so I think that is an issue for parents to be really aware of, and know that usually, like by middle school, your kid has been exposed to
To,
e-cigarettes or vapes in some way. And
really?
so,
By the time
oh
they
yeah.
go to middle school, they already
Yes.
have an
Yeah.
exposure, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. So these discussions often have to happen way earlier than we want them to be had, but
I know.
it's protective. Absolutely.
Yeah, you cannot smoke. Okay, fine. But instead of smoking cigarette, now you have different fancy e-cigarettes.
Yeah, and the flavors and the
Flavors.
packaging are very geared towards kids.
Very,
It's very
yeah,
purposeful
yeah.
marketing. And so, it looks like a starburst.
Yeah,
So
right.
why wouldn't I try it? So kind of preloading kids with an understanding of what this is and how it may affect your body
Of
is
course.
incredibly important.
Of course. So that's very good, Julie. We don't have enough time left now. Give 1 minute of keynote advice to our listeners who are
Sure.
watching.
Oh gosh, to sum things up in 1 minute, I guess. Our culture likes to try and separate
Yeah.
medical and mental health.
Medical and mental.
But they are one and the same. Our beautiful brains are inside our body.
I
When we
know.
experience something, our brains filter that signal,
Yeah.
and there's a neurochemical cascade that happens, and we experience emotions.
Sure.
And so when people understand their bodies and their emotions, it can really move them towards mental wellness.
Exactly.
Having
Mental
emotional patterns that are healthy, behavioral patterns that are healthy,
Yeah.
and connection and relationships that are healthy.
That is very good, because mental health has become such a big thing.
Yeah.
Nowadays, global, it has become global. So many articles have been come out from the World Health Organizations and all those. So I like to thank you, Julie, for coming to my show today, Mental Health Disorders, Mental Health Wellness. And you provided our viewers with a lot of informations, and they can easily reach you through your website.
Yeah.
Yeah, and whatever problems they have, you guys, your associates and everybody is able to help you.
Yeah.
I like to thank our viewers for joining me on my health talk with Dr. Julie, Director of Monarch Behaviorals. I like to thank our camera people and producer for helping me produce this video. Until I see you all, have a safe summer. Thank you again.